I'm Jonathan Victory, that is my real name. I'm not a pickup artist or something. Do you have my slides ready? There we go. Yeah, no, so I'm not a pickup artist, but I am going to talk about another area of life where you're trying to get people to like you, but you mostly annoy them with the weird things you do. Politics. How many of you are already bored? I mean, I just found, I was involved in activism a few years ago, and so, a lot of people just find politics boring, but this talk is going to be about how politics is deliberately made boring to discourage you from getting involved. They almost succeeded in discouraging me. I wanted to see change. I got involved in a group called Second Republic. Their thing was campaigning for a new constitution to be written, because our constitution is badly out of date. This is how the constitution begins. This was written in 1937. In the name of the most holy Trinity, from whom is all authority, we, the people of Era, humbly acknowledging all our obligations to our divine Lord Jesus Christ. How many of you feel represented by this?
No.
How many of you have read the Constitution? Have a look sometime. It takes like 10 minutes to skim through it. But it's not great. There's lots of stuff that needs changing. And when the previous government got into power, they said there'd be big changes. When Enda Kenny got elected, he called it a democratic revolution. So keep that in mind. That is the bar he set for himself. He didn't have to choose those words, but we are currently living through Enda Kenny's idea of a democratic revolution. Wow. Now, part of that was his government setting up a citizens' assembly to look at reviewing the constitution, but it wasn't quite what Second Republic wanted. We wanted it to be like what Iceland did recently, where they wrote a whole new constitution and put it to a referendum. This was also in the election manifesto of the Labour Party, which used a lot of paper. Once they got into government, they decided the government should set the topics. There'd be 66 citizens chosen randomly from the electoral register, and there'd be 33 politicians from across the political parties. There'd be a monthly meeting where they'd discuss reform and send ideas back to government. And the chairperson was Tom Arnold. Or, not that one, he ran the charity concern. This didn't need to be dry. This kind of thing has been done in other countries. It could have been a good thing to get people engaged in thinking about how should our government work? What kind of society do we want? What are our values in a 21st century republic? But to do that, you need to get the word out there. You need a well-branded, snappy name that gets the idea across and brings people in. The government brainstormed some name ideas, and they decided they were going to call this constitutional convention they were holding the Constitutional Convention. That's the first barrier to engagement right there. Wouldn't it be awkward if one of your mates said to you, "Hey, did you guys see the Constitutional Convention over the weekend?" So I think I've lost my virginity, but when I said that sentence, I think I found it again. That's how bad that name is. How would you even hashtag that? The government went with #CCVEN. Do y'all remember that viral hashtag in 2013 that really lit the internet on fire, getting people engaged with politics? I mean, it's... I put it this way. HeadStuff didn't need to promote this event tonight. They didn't use social media or anything. You're all just interested in this kind of thing and automatically knew it was on somehow. But if you were holding a constitutional convention to leave your legacy as Taoiseach, wouldn't you want people to know about it? I think if the government wanted more people to care about this, they wouldn't have made it so boring. This is the agenda they chose, and it's dry. And it's not that these are unimportant things. You've got the Dáil electoral system, same-sex marriage, you all remember. What's that one at the top? Reduction of the presidential term of office to 5 years. Yeah. Hang on, I can do this. I can get through that sentence without falling asleep. The alignment with local and European elections. The only person sadder than me is the guy in Young Fine Gael whose idea that was. And he was super excited it got through. It was he wanted everyone to love it, and it was exciting that as a nation we were finally discussing this. This is after a bailout. And that's on the agenda. So so far it's all a bit weird, but when the convention was actually set up and it started meeting, a surprising thing happened. It went well. Politicians didn't talk down to anyone. They made good decisions. For example, they immediately dismissed the reducing the term of the presidency to 5 years and aligning with local European elections idea. And the guy from Young Fine Gael, he was just heartbroken and jaded after that. That's my friend Richard, he's nothing to do with Fine Gael. No, but I mean, the convention, they looked at the presidency in general, and among other things, they voted on whether the minimum age should be reduced from 35 to 21. And they voted 50% in favour of this, so that's not really a yes, it's more of a sure, but that's probably not going to be important later. The convention started discussing doll reform, constitutional rights for housing and healthcare. They even voted in favour of having citizens trigger referendums if enough of them sign a petition calling for one. This is actually done in a few countries. It could make a big difference to our democracy, and this convention, which, remember, was 100 people, 33 of them were serving politicians, they voted 83% in favour of having a referendum on this. So that's a big deal, because the whole idea behind the Constitutional Convention was that the government would hold referendums based on what they said. They did want a referendum on marriage equality, and we had one, and I'm sure you all remember. It was a positive moment for the country, yes, yeah. It was such a happy day that no one noticed another referendum was held that day. It lost by 73%. The biggest margin in Irish history of any referendum losing. Which one was it? Which of the big ideas got defeated? Lowering the age of presidential candidates from 35 to 21! Like, I know we all faced bitter division in our families debating this question. Friends torn apart. Understandable passion on both sides of the argument about that. Look, it was what 50% of the convention wanted. Like, it was the proposal with the least amount of their support. 79% wanted same-sex marriage, but 83% wanted citizens' petitions to trigger referendums. 84% wanted TDs to have more freedom in how they vote in the Dáil, and 89% wanted to sort out the Constitution's dodgy gender politics. Like, good stuff came out of the convention, but no. The one public office not involved in the financial crisis, the presidency. The one area that makes no difference, a lower entry age. That was it. Those are the only two referendums we got. There were some smaller ideas taken on board, but most of them were ignored. The government response was always delayed and flimsily argued. It just feels like a waste, like as if they only set up this thing as a smokescreen so they could get one particular referendum held. Imagine. This year, Enda Kenny is setting up another citizens' assembly. This time it's 99 citizens. I presume the 33 politicians realised their time was being wasted. They are discussing the 8th Amendment, those other things, but mainly the 8th Amendment. Let's talk about that. Their thinking is that marriage equality passed because a public forum talked through it ahead of time, and that's how they'll get Repeal the 8th passed. I can see the merit in wanting to know what comes after the 8th Amendment, because abortion is a complicated issue. Like, I know I would only support abortion in certain situations, like if a woman is pregnant and doesn't want to be. The thing about this referendum is that it is so urgent and it's so overdue, so putting it in the context of this assembly is being seen as cynical. After all, Fine Gael are avoiding responsibility for this issue because they have these small pockets of swing voters who are dead set against abortion. This whole thing feels like they can go to them and say, oh, the referendum wasn't our idea, it comes from the mandate for the Citizens' Assembly. But the last Citizens' Assembly had almost all of its hard work and considered discussions ignored. So why would the public have any confidence in this next one? A democratic revolution, one that really democratised our political system and addressed inequality, like that would capture the public imagination. It wouldn't be done this cynically. I'm never tried to be a cynic, but I think Enda Kenny's whole approach to government has been cynical in this and other areas. And even just the way, like, his approach to a big idea like democratic revolution is this dry. If it's this deceitful, disjointed and weird, then it's no wonder people switch off from politics. I don't consider cynicism a useful attitude, though, so I want to try and end on a positive note. Could we have a democratic revolution? He thinks so. Enda Kenny's idea of a democratic revolution might be boring, but the world we're living in is not. The world is full of possibility right now. We had a positive moment with the marriage equality referendum. We're seeing the stirrings of a strong movement to repeal the 8th. And the political dynamic is changing a lot from what it was before. Like, a lot can change in the space of 10 years, but we need to think about what vision we collectively have for the country and what steps towards that are actually compelling to people. Fintan O'Toole put it this way: in the second decade of the 20th century, many Irish people decided that a republic was worth dying for. In the second decade of the 21st century, many more can decide that a republic is worth living in. Thank you.